At 10, this is Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
It is now just over 8 hours after the church collapse, and crews are just starting to pick up the pieces in downtown New London. Thanks for joining us here at 10. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Sarah Sanchez. The sudden collapse of the historic First Congregational Church has rocked the New London community. In the hours since, we've received video from a nearby school just around the block from the church. You're looking at it now, showing the exact moment when the steeple came crashing down. You see it over the parking garage. You can see that it topples down. This happened around 1:30 this afternoon.
The former First Congregational Church building sits on Union Street in New London, directly next to City Hall. It is currently owned by the Engaging Heaven Church. Throughout tonight, you will hear both Fox 61 and locals using those names interchangeably. Now, all that's left of the building, nearly 175 years old, is rubble. Those spires survived the infamous 1938 hurricane that tore steeples off other churches across our coastline. But tonight, it has to be demolished. Officials have ruled the church a complete loss. The Fox 61 sports director Jonah Karp wearing a different hat for us tonight. He spent the evening with locals, still trying to process this afternoon's collapse. And we'll hear from him in just a few minutes. But we begin tonight with Fox 61's Lindsay Kane. She has been digging into the history of the church. And Lindsay, there are still more questions than answers tonight as to how this happened.
Exactly. This is the start of what's going to be a very long night for these crews. As you can hear, this scene has not let up at all since earlier this afternoon. Crews are starting to dig through this rubble, beginning the process of demolishing what's left of the steeples and also other parts of this building. City officials say it's all hands on deck to make sure they do all of this by preventing any injuries. Surveillance video capturing the exact moment the historic Engaging Heaven Church in New London came crashing down.
The whole church was as a whole, I saw it. And then all of a sudden it just collapsed. It was like a waterfall and everything just went forward.
City officials say it all happened around 1:30 Thursday afternoon. The church was built in the 1850s, serving as a landmark in the city.
We've suffered a very serious setback here in downtown New London.
Crews rushing to sort through the stone rubble on Union Street. There was one woman inside the church when it collapsed, but she did get out safely. Officials say they're confident no one else was in the building, but trained crews and search dogs are combing through the stacked pieces and scattered stone on the ground to be sure.
We are working diligently to confirm that, but we have good intelligence and surveillance that is keeping us optimistic.
Witnesses in the area describing the scene like something from a movie.
All the debris, the smoke and everything, and the first thing I said was, I hope no one is in there.
New London's Mayor Michael Passero says Connecticut college students in the dorm next door have been displaced and are staying in a hotel at least through the weekend. State environmental officials are also on scene monitoring potential contamination in the area because of the building's age and the potential presence of asbestos. Crews are working to tear down the remaining steeples. As questions are coming to light on how this building came falling down with no warning.
There was no indication by the congregation or by the city that there was anything wrong with this building.
With a historic place of worship now left with gaping holes, church officials say while the building is destroyed, the church is thriving and strong, thanking God for keeping their community safe.
You could count the luck involved in this a million ways.
Crews are expected to be on scene all throughout the night to continue the demolition process. Now, it's also important to note that this church every single morning has been known to serve breakfast to the homeless community here in the city. Now, church officials want the community to know that that breakfast will still be going on tomorrow morning just at the Salvation Army here in New London. Live in New London this evening, Lindsay Kane, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
All right, Lindsay, thank you. And needless to say, there's still a lot of shock and awe around the city after this sudden collapse.
Plenty of people were around at the time to witness the church coming down. Fox 61's Jonah Karp continues our live team coverage in New London with more from some of those people who saw it. Jonah.
A truly terrifying scene for people here in New London at the time of the collapse. And speaking of terrifying, take a look behind me. Assad, if you could zoom in to this building right next to the church behind me. This building is an apartment building that houses Connecticut college students who were inside at the time of the church's collapse. And they were among the witnesses we spoke to today.
It sounded like they were dragging a dumpster down the street, and that's what I thought was like happening. It was just like this loud, you know, and then I didn't realize what had happened until the fire trucks came.
Matthew Stefanelli lives across the street from the First Congregational Church in New London with a clear view of the collapsed roof from his window on the 4th floor.
And I can see the church clearly from there. So when I looked out and saw that it wasn't standing anymore, you know, I realized right away that it was a big deal.
He was just one of many who were in close proximity to the roof caving in and the steeple toppling over. School was in session at Isaac next door, where 7th grader Edwin Ramos saw the whole thing.
I was in class, and we were looking out because the class is next to a window, and we heard a loud noise, and we looked out, and we just saw like the church building collapse. It just sounded like, really loud. I just never heard it before. It just sounded like I was surprised and in shock.
Right now we're getting as close to the collapse as we can get. Take a look at the church and what's left and all the debris on the ground. And right next to the church is this building where we know people were in at the time of the collapse.
So I was just hanging out in my apartment and heard what I thought was like a really loud thunder. Opened the blinds and saw just a bunch of dust and like rocks from the church coming down towards the window.
Some of the images of the collapse taken from outside the dorm where many students have been forced to evacuate just to be careful.
It's surreal to think that like one day you're living in your apartment and then the next day like the church that you see every day, walking to classes, walking to your car is just gone. And I mean the reason we're here now is his car is right there.
Right around the corner.
It's going to be really hard for a lot of people, you know, in this community and all around.
Connecticut College telling students that they were evacuated from their dorms to hang tight right now. Looks like they'll be put up in a hotel, but they can't get back into their apartment. One student telling me that he has a book, he has his laptop in his apartment. He's not sure if he could get to class. Live in New London, Jonah Cart, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
All right, Jonah, thank you. Nice job on that one. Boy, that video of the steeple coming down is just so jarring. While the First Congregational Church has stood in different forms since pre-colonial times, it's been owned by the Engaging Heaven Church for a number of years now. That church has 4 locations in the United States, 2 of them on opposite ends of the country, one in Missoula, Montana, the other in Madeira Beach, Florida. The other 2 locations are right here in Connecticut, with the other church sitting on First Avenue in West Haven. Now, we reached out to Engaging Heaven Church for comment on today's collapse, and so far we've not heard back. Much of the congregation flocked to the church after hearing about the collapse today, and we tried speaking to some of them, but they are still very shaken up after losing their place of worship.
Connecticut's news station is committed to following this story over the course of the investigation. When we learn new details, we'll update you online at fox61.com and on the free Fox 61 News app.
All right, time now for first check on the forecast. Unusually warm today, but that's getting replaced with rain in the coming days.
Yeah, Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank joining us. Rachel, I noticed a lot of that snow that was in my front yard probably about, what, 24 hours ago? It's pretty much gone.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a big old meltorama out there today. You could even see water rushing through the streets long after the rain ended earlier this morning, just from everything melting away. And we've got another round that is moving back in again, and this will last into the morning. morning drive tomorrow, so plan on leaving yourself some extra time. The good news is we aren't anticipating any icy spots. It will just be rain out there, up to about a half an inch, which is not enough for any significant flooding, although there could be some puddles out there as we head towards daybreak, and turning cooler tomorrow as well. Although anything is cooler than this, these numbers today were staggering. It felt like spring for a day, with highs in the 50s and even close to 60 degrees for the New Haven area. And it is still incredibly warm out there tonight. We're looking at temperatures in the mid and the upper 40s, and temperatures will slowly continue to slide back. They are in the 30s with a cold rain as we head towards daybreak. But while there is rain to start off the day tomorrow, I do think we dry things out in the afternoon. It will remain cloudy, kind of gloomy, and patchy fog, mist, and drizzle is still possible, but any significant kind of measurable rain is over by the time we get through the morning. Looks like we continue with gloomy skies into Saturday, but it's also the pick of the weekend. We're watching a coastal storm for Sunday. We'll talk about what we know and what we're trying to figure out coming up.
Rachel, thank you. Another development tonight in the mislabeled cookie saga that resulted in the death of a woman from New York. The Department of Consumer Protection says there was yet another undeclared allergen in addition to the peanuts that caused that deadly allergic reaction. The Florentine cookie containers failed to mention the recipe also included eggs. Eggs are one of the major food allergens identified by the FDA, and they require labeling. The cookies are sold under the Stu Leonard's brand name, but are manufactured by a company called Cookies United out of Long Island. Both Cookies United and Stu Leonard's have been pointing fingers at each other since that first mislabeling incident. They have not released a statement about the eggs.
Officials in Bridgeport are investigating a hit-and-run crash. This happened at the intersection of Stratford and Seaview Avenues. Man was hit and taken to the hospital. The crash happened just after 7 tonight. The driver did not stay on scene. Police are still investigating. They ask if you saw what happened to give them a call.